Street Center for Community Arts presents Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw, Act 1. Covent Garden at 11:15 p.m. Torrents of heavy summer rain. Cab whistles blowing frantically in all directions. Pedestrians running for shelter into the market and under the portico of St. Paul's Church, where there are already several people. Among them a lady and her daughter in evening dress. They are all peering out gloomily at the rain, except one man with his back turned to the rest, who seems wholly preoccupied with a notebook in which he is writing busily.
The church clock strikes the first quarter.
I'm getting chilled to the bone. What can Freddie be doing all this time? He's been gone 20 minutes.
Not so long, but he ought to have got us a cab by this.
Sorry, missus, he won't get no cab none till 11:30, when they come back after dropping their theatre fares.
But we must have a cab. We can't stand here until 11:30. It's too bad.
Well, it ain't my fault, missus.
If Freddie had a bit of gumption, he would have got one at the theatre door.
What could he have done, poor boy?
Other people got cabs. Why couldn't he?
Freddie rushes in out of the rain from the Southampton Street side and comes between them, closing a dripping umbrella. He is a young man of 20, in evening dress, very wet around the ankles.
Well, haven't you got a cab?
There's not one to be had for love or money.
Oh, Freddie, there must be one. You can't have tried.
It's too tiresome. Do you expect us to go and get one ourselves?
I tell you, they're all engaged. The rain was so sudden that nobody was prepared, and everybody had to take a cab. I've been to Charing Cross one way and nearly to Ludgate Circus the other, and they were all engaged.
Did you try Trafalgar Square?
There wasn't one at Trafalgar Square.
Did you try?
I tried as far as Charing Cross Station. Did you expect me to walk to Hammersmith?
You haven't tried at all.
You really are very helpless, Freddie. Go again, and don't come back until you have found a cab.
I shall simply get soaked for nothing.
And what about us? Are we to stand here all night in this draught with next to nothing on? You selfish pig!
Oh, very well, I'll go.
He opens his umbrella and dashes off strandwards, but comes into collision with a flower girl who is hurrying in for shelter, knocking her basket out of her hands. A blinding flash of lightning, followed instantly by a rattling peal of thunder, orchestrates the incident.
Freddie, look where you're going, dear.
Sorry.
There's manners for you. 2 branches of violets trod into the mud.
She sits down on the plinth of the column, sorting her flowers, on the lady's right. She is not at all an attractive person. She is perhaps 18, perhaps 20, hardly older. She wears a little sailor hat of black straw that has long been exposed to the dust and soot of London, and has seldom, if ever, been brushed. Her hair needs washing rather badly. Its mousy color can hardly be natural. She wears a shoddy black coat that reaches nearly to her knees, and is shaped to her waist. She has a brown skirt with a coarse apron. Her boots are much the worse for wear. She is no doubt as clean as she can afford to be, but compared to the ladies, she is very dirty. Her features are no worse than theirs, but their condition leaves something to be desired, and she needs the services of a dentist.
How do you know my son's name is Freddie, pray?
Oh, he's your son, is he? Well, if you'd done your duty by him, as a mother should, he'd know better than to spoil a poor girl's flowers than run away without paying. Will you pay me for him?
Do nothing of the sort, Mother. The idea!
Please allow me, Clara. Have you any pennies?
No, I've nothing smaller than a 6pence.
I can give you change for a tanner, kind lady.
Give it to me. Now, this is for your flowers.
Thank you kindly, lady.
Make her give you the change. These things are only a penny a bunch.
Do hold your tongue, Clara. You can keep the change.
Oh, thank you, lady.
Now, tell me how you know that young gentleman's name.
I didn't.
I heard you call him by it. Don't try to deceive me.
Who's trying to deceive you? I called him Freddie or Charlie, same as you might yourself if you was talking to a stranger and wished to be pleasant.
6 pence thrown away. Really, Mama? You might have spared Freddie that.
An elderly gentleman of the amiable military type rushes into shelter and closes a dripping umbrella. He is the same plight as Freddie, very wet about the ankles. He is in evening dress, with a light overcoat. He takes the place left vacant by the daughter's retirement.
Phew!
Oh, sir, is there any sign of it stopping?
I'm afraid not. It started worse than ever about 2 minutes ago.
Oh, dear.
It's worse if it's a sign it's nearly over. So cheer up, Captain, and buy a flower off the poor girl.
I'm sorry, I haven't any change.
I can give you change, Captain.
For a sovereign, I've nothing less.
Oh, gone. Oh, do buy a flower off me, Captain. I can change half a crown.
Now, don't be troublesome. There's a good girl. I really haven't any change. Stop. There's a halfpence, if that's any use to you.
Thank you, sir.
You be careful. Give him a flower for it. There's a bloke here behind taking down every blessed word you're saying.
I ain't done nothing wrong by speaking to the gentleman. I've a right to sell flowers if I keep off the curb. I'm a respectable girl, so help me, I never spoke to him except to ask him to buy a flower off me.
Oh, don't start hollering.
Who's hurting you?
Nobody's going to touch you.
What's the good of fussing?
I'll steady on.
Easy, easy. What's the row?
There's a tech taking her down.
What, him?
Yes, him over there. She took money off the gentleman.
Oh, sir, don't let him charge me. You don't know what it means to me. They'll take away my character and drive me on the streets for speaking to the gentleman.
There. Who's hurting you, you silly girl? What do you take me for?
It's all right. He's a gentleman. Look at his boots. She thought she was a copper's knock, sir.
What's a copper's knock?
It's a copper's knock, as you might say. What else would you call it? A sort of informer.
I take my Bible oath and I never said a word.
Oh, shut up. Do I look like a policeman?
Then what did you take down my words for? How do I know whether you took me down right? You just show me what you've wrote about me. What's that? That ain't proper writing. I can't read that.
I can. Cheer up, Captain. Yaw your flower off a poor gal.
It's because I called him Captain. I meant no harm. Oh, sir, don't let him lay a charge against me for a word like that.
Charge? I make no charge. Really, sir, if you are a detective, you need not begin protecting me against molestation by young women until I ask you. Anybody could see that the girl meant no harm.
Of course they could.
What business is it of yours?
You mind your own affairs.
He wants a promotion, he does.
Taking down people's words.
Girl never said a word to him.
And what harm if she did?
Nice thing, girl can't take shelter from the rain without being insulted.
You know, he ain't a tech. He's a bloomin' busybody, that's what he is. I tell you, look at his boots.
And how are all your people down in Seldesy?
Who told you my people come from Stelsey?
Never you mind, they did. How did you come to be up so far east? You were born in Lisson Grove.
Oh, what harm is there in leaving Lisson Grove? It wasn't fit for a pig to live in, and I had to pay 4 and 6 a week. Oh.
Live where you like, but stop that noise.
Come, he can't touch you. You have a right to live where you please.
I think, for instance, I'd like to go into the housing question with you, I would.
I'm a good girl, I am.
Do you know where I come from?
Hoxton.
Well, who said I didn't? Blimey, you know everything, you do.
Ain't no cold to meddle with me, he ain't.
Of course he ain't. Don't you stand it from him. See here, sir. What call have you to know about people what never offered to meddle with you? Where's your warrant?
Yes, where's your warrant?
Oh, let him say what he likes. I don't want to have no truck with him.
You take us for dirt under our feet, do you? Catched you taking liberties with a gentleman.
Yes. Tell him where he come from if you don't want to go fortune-telling.
Cheltenham, Harrow, Cambridge, and India.
Quite right. May I ask, sir, do you do this for your living at a music hall?
I've thought of that. Perhaps I shall someday.
He's no gentleman, he ain't, to interfere with a poor girl.
What on earth is Freddie doing? I shall get pneumonia if I stay in this draft any longer.
Earl's Court.
Will you please keep your impertinent remarks to yourself?
Did I say that out loud? I didn't mean to. I beg your pardon. Your mother's Epsom, unmistakably.
How very curious. I was brought up in Large Lady Park near Epsom.
What a devil of a name. Excuse me. You want a cab, do you?
Don't dare speak to me.
Oh, please, Clara. We should be ever so grateful to you, sir, if you found us a cab. Oh, thank you.
There, I knowed it was a plainclothes copper.
That ain't a police whistle, that's a sporting whistle.
He's no right to take away my character. My character's the same to me as any lady's.
I don't know whether you noticed it, but the rain stopped about 2 minutes ago.
So it has. And why didn't you say so before? And us losing our time listening to your silliness.
I can tell where you come from. You come from Anwell Lunatic Asylum. Go back there.
Hanwell.
Thank you, teacher. So long.
Frightening people like that. How would he like it himself?
It's quite fine now, Clara. We can walk to a motorboat. Come.
But the cab! Oh, how tiresome.
Poor girl. Hard enough for her to live without being worried and chivied.
How do you do it, if I may ask?
Simply phonetics, the science of speech. That's my profession. Also my hobby. Happy is the man who can make a living by his hobby. You can an Irishman or a Yorkshireman by his brogue. I can place any man within 6 miles. I can place him within London in 2. Sometimes within 2 streets.
Ought to be ashamed of himself, unmanly coward.
But is there a living in that?
Oh yes, quite a fat one. This is an age of upstarts. Men begin in Kentish Town with £80 a year and end up in Park Lane with 100,000. They want to drop Kentish Town, but they give themselves away every time they open their mouths. Now, I can teach them...
Let him mind his own business and leave a poor girl alone.
Women, cease this detestable boo-hooing instantly, or else seek the shelter of some other place of worship.
I've a right to be here if I like. Same as you.
A woman who utters such depressing and disgusting sounds has no right to be anywhere, no right to live. Remember that you are a human being with a soul, and the divine gift of articulate speech, that your native language is the language of Shakespeare and Milton and the Bible. Don't sit there crooning like a bilious pigeon.
Ow!
Oh, heavens, what a sound. Ow, ow, ow!
Gone.
You see this creature with her curbstone English, the English that will keep her in the gutter to the end of her days. Well, sir, in 3 months, I could pass this girl off as a duchess at an ambassador's garden party. I could even get her a place as a lady's maid or a shop assistant, which requires better English. That's the sort of thing I do for my commercial millionairesses. And on the profits, I do genuine scientific work in phonetics, and a little as a poet on Miltonic lines.
I am myself a student of Indian dialects, and
Are you? Do you know Colonel Pickering, the author of Spoken Sanskrit?
I am Colonel Pickering. Who are you?
Henry Higgins, author of Higgins' Universal Alphabet.
I came from India to meet you.
I was going to India to meet you.
Where do you live?
27A Wimpole Street. Come and see me tomorrow.
I'm at the Carlton. Come with me now, and let's have a jaw over some supper.
Right you are.
Buy a flower, kind gentleman. I'm short for my lodging.
I really haven't any change. I'm sorry.
Liar, you said you could change a half-crown.
You ought to be stuffed with nails, you ought. Take the whole blooming basket for 6 pence.
The church clock strikes the second quarter.
A reminder.
Ow! Ow! Ugh.
Got one at last. Hello. Where are the two ladies that were here?
They walked to the bus when the rain stopped.
And left me with a cab on my hands. Damnation!
Never mind, you young man. I'm going home in a taxi. 8 pence ain't no object to me, Charlie. Angel Court, Drury Lane, round the corner of Mickle John's oil shop. Let's see how fast you can make her up it.
Well, I'm dashed.
Act 2. Next day at 11 a.m. Higgins's laboratory in Wimpole Street. It is a room on the first floor looking on the street and was meant for the drawing room. A flat writing table holds a phonograph, a laryngoscope, a row of tiny organ pipes with a bellows, a set of lamp chimneys for singing flames, with burners attached to a gas plug in the wall by an India rubber tube, several tuning forks of different sizes, a life-size image of half a human head, showing in section the vocal organs, and a box containing a supply of wax cylinders for the phonograph. Pickering is seated at the table, putting down some cards and a tuning fork which he has been using. Higgins is standing up near him, closing 2 or 3 file drawers which are hanging out. He appears in the morning light as a robust, vital, appetizing sort of man of 40 or thereabouts. He is dressed in a professional-looking black frock coat with a white linen collar and black silk tie. He is of the energetic, scientific type, heartily, even violently interested in everything that can be studied as a scientific subject, and careless about himself and other people, including their feelings. He is, in fact, but for his years and size, rather like a very impetuous baby, taking notice eagerly and loudly, and requiring almost as much watching to keep him out of unintended mischief. His manner varies from genial bullying when he's in a good humor, to stormy petulance when anything goes wrong. But he is so entirely frank and void of malice that he remains likable, even in his least reasonable moments.
Well, I think that's the whole show.
It's really amazing. I haven't taken half of it in, you know.
Would you like to go over any of it again?
No, thank you, not now. I'm quite done up for this morning.
Tired of listening to sounds?
Yes, it's a fearful strain. I'd rather fancied myself because I can pronounce 24 distinct vowel sounds, but your 130 beat me. I can't hear a bit of difference between most of them.
No, that comes with practice. You hear no difference at first, but you keep on listening, and presently you'll find they're all as different as A from B. What's the matter?
A young woman wants to see you, sir.
A young woman? What does she want?
Well, sir, she says you'll be glad to see her when you know what she's come about. She's quite a common girl. Very common indeed. I should have sent her away. Only I thought perhaps you wanted her to talk into your machines. I hope I have not done wrong, but really, you see such queer people sometimes. You'll excuse me. I'm sure, sir.
Oh, that's all right, Mrs. Pierce. Has she an interesting accent?
Oh, something dreadful, sir. Really. I don't know how you can take an interest in it.
Let's have her up. Show her up, Mrs. Pierce.
Very well, sir. It's for you to say.
This is rather a bit of luck. I'll show you how I make records. We'll set her talking, and I'll take it down first in Bell's visible speech, then in broad Romic. Then we'll get her on the phonograph so you can turn her on as often as you like with the written transcript before you.
This is the young woman, sir.
The flower girl enters in state. She has a hat with 3 ostrich feathers, orange, sky blue, and red. She has a nearly clean apron, and the shoddy coat has been tidied, a little. The pathos of this deplorable figure, with its innocent vanity and consequential air, touches Pickering, who has already straightened himself in the presence of Mrs. Pierce. But as to Higgins, the only distinction he makes between men and women is that when he is neither bullying nor exclaiming to the heavens against some featherweight cross, he coaxes women as a child coaxes its nurse when it wants to get anything out of her.
Why, this is the girl I jotted down last night. She's no use. I forgot all the records I want of the Listen Grove lingo, and I'm not going to waste another cylinder on it. Be off with you. I don't want you.
Don't be so saucy. You ain't heard what I come for yet. Did you tell him I come in a taxi?
Nonsense, girl. What do you think a gentleman like Mr. Higgins cares what you came in?
Oh, we are proud. He ain't above giving lessons, not him. I heard him say so. Well, I ain't come back here to ask for any compliment, and if my money's not good enough, I can go elsewhere.
Good enough for what?
Good enough for you. Now you know, don't you? I've come to have lessons, I am. And to pay for 'em too, make no mistake.
Well, what do you expect me to say to you?
Well, if you was a gentleman, you might ask me to sit down, I think. Don't I tell you I'm bringing you business?
Pickering, shall we ask this baggage to sit down, or shall we throw her out of the window?
Ow! I won't be called baggage when I've offered to pay like any lady.
What is it you want, my girl?
I want to be a lady in a flower shop instead of selling at the corner of Tottenham Court Road. But they won't make me unless I can talk more gentle. He said he could teach me. Well, here I am, ready to pay him, not asking any favour. And he treats me as if I was dirt.
How could you be such a foolish, ignorant girl as to think you could afford to pay Mr. Higgins?
Why shouldn't I? I know what lessons cost as well as you do, and I'm ready to pay.
How much?
Now you're talking. I thought you'd come off it when you saw a chance of getting back a bit of what you chucked at me last night. You'd had a drop in, hadn't you?
Sit down.
Oh, if you're gonna make a compliment of it.
Sit down.
Sit down, girl. Do as you're told.
Ow!
Won't you sit down?
Don't mind if I do.
What's your name?
Eliza Doolittle.
Eliza, Elizabeth, Betsy, and Bess, they went to the woods to get a bird's nest.
They found a nest with 4 eggs in it.
They took 1 apiece and left 3 in it.
Oh, don't be silly. Well, why won't he speak sensible to me?
Come, back to business. How much do you propose to pay me for the lessons?
Oh, I know what's right. A lady friend of mine gets French lessons for 18 pence an hour from a real French gentleman. Well, you wouldn't have the face to ask me for the same for teaching me my own language as you would for French, so I won't give more than a shilling. Take it or leave it.
You know, Pickering, if you consider a shilling not as a simple shilling, but as a percentage of this girl's income, it works out to as fully equivalent to 60 or 70 guineas from a millionaire.
How so?
Figure it out. A millionaire has about £150 a day. She earns about half a crown.
Who told you I only earn that much?
She offers to me 2/5 of a day's income for a lesson. 2/5 of a millionaire's income for a day would be somewhere around £60. It's by George, it's enormous. It's the biggest offer I've ever had.
£60? What are you talking about? I never offered you £60. Where would I get that kind
Hold
of
your tongue.
I ain't got £60.
Don't cry, you silly girl. Sit down. Nobody is going to touch your money.
Somebody is going to touch you with a broomstick if you don't stop sniveling.
Ow!
Oh, no.
Oh, you would think you was my father.
If I decide to teach you, I'll be worse than two fathers to you. Here.
What's this for?
To wipe your eyes, to wipe any part of your face that feels moist. Remember, this is your handkerchief, and that is your sleeve. Don't mistake one for the other if you wish to become a lady in a shop.
It's no use talking to her like that, Mr. Higgins. She doesn't understand you. Besides, you're quite wrong. She doesn't do it that way at all.
Here, you give me that handkerchief. You give it to me, not to you.
He did. I think it must be regarded as her property, Mrs. Pierce.
Serve you right, Mr. Higgins.
Higgins, I'm interested. What about the ambassador's garden party? I'll say you're the greatest teacher alive if you can make that good. I'll bet you all the expenses of the experiment you can't do it. And I'll pay for the lessons.
Oh, you are real good. Thank you, Captain.
It's almost irresistible. She's so deliciously low, so horribly dirty.
Ow! I ain't dirty. I washed my face and hands before I came, I did.
You're certainly not going to turn her head with flattery, Higgins.
Oh, don't say that, sir. There's more ways than one of turning a girl's head, and nobody can do it better than Mr. Higgins, though he may not always mean it. I do hope so, sir. You won't encourage him to do anything foolish.
What is life but a series of inspired follies? The difficulty is to find them to do. Never lose a chance. It doesn't come every day. I shall make a duchess of this draggle-tailed gutter snipe.
Ow!
Oh, yes. In 6 months, in 3, if she has a good ear and a quick tongue, I'll take her anywhere and pass her off as anything. We'll start today. Now. This moment. Take it away and clean her, Mrs. Pierce. Monkey brand. It won't come off any other way. Is there a fire in the kitchen?
Yes, but...
Take all her clothes off and burn them. Ring up Whiteley or somebody for new ones. Wrap her up in brown paper till they come.
You're no gentleman, you're not, to talk of such things. I'm a good girl, I am. And I know what the like of you are. I do.
We want none of your Listen Grove prudery here, young woman. You've got to learn to behave like a duchess. Take her away, Miss Pierce. If she gives you any trouble, wallop her.
No, I'll call the police, I will.
But I have no place to put her.
Put her in the dustbin.
Ow!
Oh, come, Higgins. Be reasonable.
You must be reasonable, Mr. Higgins. Really, you must. You can't walk over everybody like this.
I walk over everybody! My dear Mrs. Pierce, my dear Pickering, I never had the slightest intention of walking over anyone. All I propose is that we should be kind to this poor girl. We must help her to prepare herself and fit herself for her new status in life. If I did not express myself clearly, it was because I did not wish to hurt her delicacy, or yours.
Well, did you ever hear anything like that, sir?
Never, Mrs. Pierce. Never.
What's the matter?
Well, the matter is, sir, that you can't take a girl up like that, as if you're picking a pebble up on the beach.
Why not?
Why not? But you don't know anything about her. What about her parents? She may be married.
Gone.
There, as the girl very properly says, gone. Married indeed. Do you know that a woman of that class looks a worn-out drudge of 50 a year after she's married?
Who'd marry me?
By George, Eliza. The streets will be strewn with the bodies of men shooting themselves for your shake before I'm done with you.
Nonsense, sir. You mustn't talk like that to her.
I'm going away. He's off his chump, he is. I don't want no blammies teaching me.
Oh, indeed. I'm mad, am I? Very well, Mrs. Pierce. You needn't order the new clothes for her. Throw out.
Now, you got no right to touch me.
You see now what becomes of being saucy? This way, please.
I didn't want no clothes. I wouldn't have taken them. I can buy my own clothes.
You're an ungrateful, wicked girl. This is my return for offering me to take you out of the gutter and dress you beautifully and make a lady out of you.
Stop, Mr. Higgins. I won't allow it. It's you that are wicked. Go home to your parents, girl, and tell them to take better care of you.
I ain't got no parents. They told me I was big enough to earn my own living and turned me out.
Where's your mother?
I ain't got no mother. Her that turned me out was my 6th stepmother. But I done without 'em. And I'm a good girl, I am.
Very well then. What on earth is all this fuss about? The girl doesn't belong to anybody. It's no use to anybody but me. You can adopt her, Mrs. Pierce. I'm sure her daughter would be a great amusement to you. Now, don't make any more fuss. Take her downstairs and...
But what is to become of her? Is she to be paid anything? Do be sensible, sir.
Well, pay her whatever is necessary. Put it down in the housekeeping book. What on earth would she want with money? She'll have her food and her clothes. She'll only drink if you give her money.
Oh, you are a brute. It's a lie. Nobody ever saw a sign of liquor on me.
Does it occur to you, Higgins, that the girl has some feelings?
No, I don't think so. Not any feelings that we need bother about. Eliza.
I got my feelings, same as anyone else.
You see the difficulty.
What difficulty?
To get her to talk grammar. The mere pronunciation is easy enough.
I don't want to talk grammar. I want to talk like a lady.
Will you please keep to the point, Mr. Higgins? I want to know on what terms the girl is to be here. Is she to have any wages? And what is to become of her when you've finished your teaching? You must look ahead a little.
What's to become of her if I leave her in the gutter? Tell me that, Mrs. Pierce.
That's her own business, not yours, Mr. Higgins.
Well, when I'm done with her, we can throw her back into the gutter, and then it will be her own business again, so that's all right.
Oh, you've no feeling art in you. You don't care for nothing but yourself. Here, I've had enough of this. I'm going. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, you ought.
Have some chocolates, Eliza.
How do I know what might be in 'em? I've heard of girls being drugged like this by the like of you.
Pledge of good faith, Eliza. I'll eat one half, and you eat the other. You shall have boxes of them, barrels of them every day. You shall live on them, eh?
I wouldn't have ate it, only I'm too ladylike to take it out of my mouth.
Listen, Eliza, I think you said you came here in a taxi.
Well, what if I did? I've as good a right to take a taxi as anyone else.
You have, Eliza, and in future you shall have as many taxis as you want. You shall go up and down and round the town in a taxi every day. Think of that, Eliza.
Mr. Higgins, you're tempting the girl. It's not right. She should think of the future.
At her age, nonsense. Time enough to think of the future when you haven't any future to think of. No, Eliza, do as this lady does. Think of other people's futures, but never think of your own. Think of chocolates and taxis and gold and diamonds.
No, I don't want no gold and no diamonds. I'm a good girl, I am.
You shall remain so, Eliza, under the care of Mrs. Pierce, and you shall marry an officer in the Guards with a beautiful moustache, the son of a marquis, who will disinherit him for marrying you, but will relent when he sees your beauty and goodness.
Excuse me, Higgins, but I really must interfere. Mrs. Pierce is quite right. If this girl is to put herself in your hands for 6 months for an experiment in teaching, she must understand thoroughly what she is doing.
How can she? She's incapable of understanding anything. Besides, do any of us understand what we are doing? If we did, would we ever do it?
Very clever, Higgins, but not sound sense. Miss Doolittle.
Ow!
There, that's all you get out of Eliza. Ow. And no use explaining. As a military man, you ought to know that. Give her orders. That's what she wants. Eliza, you are to live here for the next 6 months, learning how to speak beautifully, like a lady in a florist shop. If you're good and do whatever you're told, you shall sleep in a proper bedroom, have lots to eat, and money to buy chocolates and take rides and taxis. If you're naughty and idle, you will sleep in the back kitchen among the black beetles and be walloped by Mrs. Pierce with the broomstick. At the end of 6 months, you shall go to Buckingham Palace in a carriage, beautifully dressed. If the king finds out you're not a lady, you will be taken by police to the Tower of London, where your head will be cut off, as a warning to other presumptuous flower girls. If you are not found out, you shall be given a present of 7 and 6pence to start life with as a lady in a shop. If you refuse this offer, you will be a most ungrateful and wicked girl, and the angels will weep for you. Now, are you satisfied, Pickering? Can I have put it more plainly and fairly, Mrs. Pierce?
I think you'd better let me speak to the girl privately and properly. I don't know that I can take charge of her or consent to the arrangement at all. Of course I know you don't mean her any harm, but when you get what you call interested in people's accents, you never think or care what may happen to them or you. Come with me, Eliza.
That's all right. Thank you, Mrs. Pierce. Bundle her off to the bathroom.
You're a great bully, you are. I won't stay here if I don't like. I won't let nobody wallop me. I never asked to go to Buckingham Palace, I didn't. I was never in trouble with the police. Not me, I'm a good girl.
Don't answer back, girl. You don't understand the gentleman. Come with me.
Well, what I say is right. I won't go near the king, not if I'm going to have my head cut off. If I'd known what I was letting myself in for, I wouldn't have come here. I've always been a good girl, and I've never offered to say a word to him. And I don't owe him nothing. And if I don't care, and I won't be put upon, and I have my feelings same as anyone else.
Excuse this straight question, Higgins. Are you a man of good character when women are concerned?
Have you ever met a man of good character where women are concerned?
Yes, very frequently.
Well, I haven't. I find the moment I let a woman make friends with me, she becomes jealous, exacting, suspicious, and a damned nuisance. I find the moment I let myself make a friend with a woman, I become selfish and tyrannical. Women upset everything when you let them into your life. You find that the woman is driving at one thing and you're driving at another.
At what, for example?
Oh, Lord knows. I suppose the woman wants to live her own life and the man wants to live his, and each tries to drag each other to the wrong track. One wants to go north, the other south, and the result is they both have to go east, but they both hate the east wind. So, here I am, a confirmed old bachelor and likely to remain so.
Come, Higgins. You know what I mean. If I'm to be in this business, I shall feel responsible for that girl. I hope it's understood that no advantage is to be taken of her position.
What? That thing? Sacred, I assure you. You see, she'll be a pupil, and teaching would be impossible unless pupils were sacred. I taught scores of American millionairesses how to speak English, the best-looking women in the world. I'm seasoned. They might as well be blocks of wood. I might as well be a block of wood. It's... Well, Mrs. Pierce, is it all right?
I just wish to trouble you with a word, if I may, Mr. Higgins.
Yes, certainly. Come in. Oh, don't burn that, Mrs. Pierce. I'll keep it as a curiosity.
Handle it carefully, sir, please. I had to promise her not to burn it, but I had better put it in the oven for a while.
Oh, thank you. Well, what have you to say to me?
Mr. Higgins, will you please be very particular what you say before the girl?
Of course. I'm always particular about what I say. Why do you say this to me?
No, sir, you're not at all particular when you've mislaid anything or when you get a little impatient. Now, it doesn't matter before me, I'm used to it, but you really must not swear before the girl.
I swear? I never swear. I detest the habit. What the devil do you mean?
That's what I mean, sir. You swear a great deal too much. I don't mind your damning and blasting and what the devil and where the devil and who the devil.
Really, Mrs. Pierce, this language from your lips.
But there's a certain word I must ask you not to use. The girl has just used it herself because the bath was too hot. It begins with the same letter as bath. She knows no better. She learnt it at her mother's knee. But she must not hear it from your lips.
I cannot charge myself with having ever uttered it, Mrs. Pierce. Except perhaps a moment of extreme and justifiable excitement.
Only this morning, sir, you applied it to your boots, to the butter, and to the brown bread.
Oh, that. An alliteration, Mrs. Pierce, natural to a poet.
Well, sir, whatever you choose to call it, I beg you not to let the girl hear you repeat it.
Oh, very well, very well. Is that all?
No, sir. We shall have to be very particular with the girl as to personal cleanliness.
Certainly. Right, quite right. Most important.
I mean, not to be slovenly about her dress or untidy in leaving things about.
Just so. I intended to call your attention to that. It is these little things that matter, Pickering. Take care of the pence and the pounds will take care of themselves. It's as true of personal habits as of money.
Yes, sir. Then, might I ask you not to come down to breakfast in your dressing gown? Or, at any rate, not to use it as a napkin, to the extent that you do, sir? And if you would be so good as to not eat everything off the same plate? And to remember not to put the porridge saucepan out of your hand onto the clean tablecloth? It would be a better example to the girl. You know, you nearly choked yourself with a fishbone in the jam only last week.
I may do these things sometimes in absence of mind, but I surely don't do them habitually. By the way, my dressing gown smells most damnably of benzene.
No doubt it does, Mr. Higgins. But if you will wipe your fingers...
Oh, very well, very well. I'll wipe them in my hair in future.
I hope I have not offended you, Mr. Higgins.
Not at all, not at all. You're quite right, Mrs. Pierce. I shall be particularly careful about the girl. Is that all?
No, sir. Might she use some of those Japanese dresses you bought from abroad? I really can't put her back into her old things.
Certainly. Anything you like. Is that all?
Thank you, sir. That's all.
You know, Pickering, that woman has the most extraordinary ideas about me. Here I am, a shy, diffident sort of man. I've never been able to really feel grown up and tremendous like other chaps, and yet she's firmly persuaded that I'm an arbitrary, overbearing, bossing kind of person. I can't account for it.
If you please, sir, the trouble's beginning already. There's a dustman downstairs, Alfred Doolittle, wants to see you. He says you have his daughter here.
Phew, I say.
Send the blackguard up.
Oh, very well.
He may not be a blackguard, Higgins.
Nonsense, of course he's a blackguard.
Whether he is or not, I'm afraid we shall have some trouble with him.
Oh, no, I think not. If there's any trouble to be had, he shall have it with me, not I with him. And we are sure to get something interesting out of him.
About the girl?
No, I mean his dialect.
Oh.
Doolittle, sir.
Alfred Doolittle is an elderly but vigorous dustman clad in the costume of his profession, including a hat with a back brim covering his neck and shoulders. He has well-marked and rather interesting features, and seems equally free from fear and conscience. He has a remarkably expressive voice, the result of a habit of giving vent to his feelings without reserve. His present pose is that of wounded honor and stern resolution.
No. Professor Higgins?
Here. Good morning. Sit down.
Morning, Governor. I come about a very serious matter, Governor.
Brought up in Hounslow. Mother Welsh, I should think. What do you want, Doolittle?
I want my daughter. That's what I want, see?
Oh, of course you do. You're her father, aren't you? You don't suppose anyone else wants her, do you? I'm glad to see you have some spark of family feeling left. She's upstairs. Take her away at once.
What?
Take it away. Do you suppose I'm going to keep your daughter for you?
Now, look here, Governor. Is this reasonable? Is it fair to take advantage of a man like this? The girl belongs to me. You got her. Where do I come in?
Your daughter had the audacity to come to my house and ask me to teach her how to speak properly so that she could get a place in a flower shop. This gentleman and my housekeeper have been here all the time. How dare you come here and attempt to blackmail me? You sent her here on purpose.
No, Governor.
You must have. How else could you possibly know she is here?
Don't take a man up like that, Governor.
The police shall take you up. This is a plot to extort money by threats. I shall telephone for the police.
Have I asked you for a brass farthing? I leave it to the gentleman here. Have I said a word about money?
What else did you come here for?
Well, what would a man come for? Be human, Governor.
Alfred, did you put her up to it?
So help me, Governor, I never did. I take my Bible oath I ain't seen the girl this past 2 months.
Then how did you know she was here?
I'll tell you, Governor, if you will only let me get a word in. I'm willing to tell you. I'm wanting to tell you. I'm waiting to tell you.
Pickering, this chap has a certain natural gift of rhetoric. Observe the rhythm of his native wood notes wild. I'm willing to tell you, I'm wanting to tell you, I'm waiting to tell you. Sentimental rhetoric. That's the Welsh strain in him. It all accounts for his mendacity and dishonesty.
Oh, please, Higgins. I'm West Country myself. Mr. Doolittle, how did you know the girl was here if you didn't send her?
It was like this, Governor. The girl took the boy in a taxi to give him a jaunt. Son of her landlady, he is. He hung about on the chance of her giving him another ride home. Well, she sent him back for her luggage when she heard you was willing for her to stop here. I met with the boy at the corner of Longacre and Endell Street.
Public house, yes.
The poor man's club, Governor. Why shouldn't I?
Do let him tell his story, Higgins.
He told me what was up, and I ask you what was my feelings and my duty as a father. I say to the boy, you bring me the luggage. I said...
Why didn't you go for it yourself?
Landlady wouldn't have trusted me with it, Governor. She's that kind of woman, you know. I'd had to give the boy a penny before he trusted me with it, the little swine. I brought it to her just to oblige you like and make myself agreeable. That's all.
How much luggage?
A musical instrument, Governor. A few pictures, a trifle of jewelry, and a bird cage. She said she didn't want no clothes. What was I to think from that, Governor? I ask you as a parent, what was I to think?
So you came to rescue her from a fate worse than death, eh?
Just so, Governor. That's right.
But why did you bring her luggage if you intended to take her away?
Have I said a word about taking her away? Have I now?
You're going to take her away double quick.
No, Governor, don't say that. I'm not the man to stand in my girl's light. Here's a career opening for her, as you might say, and...
Mrs. Pierce, this is Eliza's father. He has come to take her away. Give her to him.
Oh, this is a misunderstanding. Listen here.
He can't take her away. Mr. Higgins, how can he? You told me to burn her clothes.
That's right. I can't carry the girl through the streets like a bloomin' monkey, can I? I put it to you.
You have put it to me that you want your daughter. Take your daughter. If she has no clothes, go out and buy her some.
Where's the clothes she come in? Did I burn them, or did your missus here?
I am the housekeeper, if you please. I have sent for some clothes for your girl. When they come, you can take her away. You can wait in the kitchen. This way, please.
Listen here, Governor. You and me is men of the world, ain't we?
Oh, men of the world, are we? You'd better go, Mrs. Pierce.
I think so indeed.
The floor is yours, Mr. Doolittle.
I thank you, Governor. Well, the truth is, I've taken a sort of fancy to you, Governor. And if you want the girl, I'm not so set on having her back home again. But what I might be open to, an arrangement. Regarded in the light of a young woman, she's a fine, handsome girl. As a daughter, she's not worth her keep. And so I tell you straight, all I ask is me rights as a father. And you're the last man alive to expect me to go for nothing. For I can see you're one of the straight sort, Governor. Well, what's a £5 note to you, and what's Eliza to me?
I think you ought to know, Doolittle, that Mr. Higgins' intentions are entirely honorable.
Of course they are, Governor. If I thought they wasn't, I'd ask 50.
You mean to say, you callous rascal, that you'd sell your daughter for £50? £50?
Not in a general way, I wouldn't. But to oblige a gentleman like you, I'd do a good deal. I do assure you.
Have you no morals, man?
I can't afford them, Governor. Neither could you if you was as poor as me. Not that I mean any harm, you know. But if Liza is going to have a bit out of this, why not me too?
I don't know what to do, Pickering. There can be no question that as a matter of morals, it's a positive crime to give this chap a farthing, and yet I feel a sort of rough justice in his claim.
That's it, Governor. That's all I say. A father's art, as it were.
Well, I know the feeling, but really it seems hardly right.
Don't say that, Governor. Don't look at it that way. I'm one of the undeserving poor, that's what I am. Think of what that means to a man. It means that he's up against middle-class morality all the time. If there's anything going, and I put in for a bit of it, it's always the same story. You're undeserving, so you can't have it. But my needs is as great as the most deserving widow that ever got money out of 6 different charities in 1 week for the death of the same husband. I don't need less than a deserving man. I need more. I don't eat less hearty than him, and I drink a lot more. I want a bit of amusement, 'cause I'm a thinking man. I want cheerfulness and a song in a band when I feel low. Well, they charge me just the same for everything as they charge the deserving. What is middle-class morality? Just an excuse for never giving me anything. Therefore, I ask you as 2 gentlemen not to play that game on me. I'm playing straight with you. I ain't pretending to be deserving. I'm undeserving, and I mean to go on being undeserving. I like it, and that's the truth. Will you take advantage of a man's nature to do him out of the price of his own daughter? What he's brought up and fed and clothed by the sweat of his brow until she's grown big enough to be interesting to you 2 gentlemen. Is £5 unreasonable? I put it to you, and I leave it to you.
Pickering, if we were to take this man in hand for 3 months, he could choose between a seat in the cabinet and a popular pulpit in Wales.
What do you say to that, Doolittle?
Not me, Governor. Thank you kindly. I've heard all the preachers and all the prime ministers, for I'm a thinking man, and game for politics or religion or social reform, same as all the other amusements. And I tell you, it's a dog's life anyway if you look at it. Undeserving poverty is my line, taking one station in society with another. It's the only one that has any ginger in it to my taste.
I suppose we must give him a fiver.
He'll make bad use of it, I'm afraid.
No, not me, Governor, so help me I won't. Don't you be afraid that I'll save it and spare it and live idle on it. No, there won't be a penny of it left by Monday. I'll have to go to work same as if I'd never had it. It won't pauperize me, you bet. Just one good spree for myself and the missus, giving pleasure to ourselves and employment to others, and satisfaction to you to think that it's not been throwed away. You couldn't spend it better.
This is irresistible. Let's give him 10.
Oh, no, Governor, she wouldn't have the heart to spend 10. And perhaps I shouldn't either. £10 is a lot of money. It makes a man feel prudent-like. And then goodbye to happiness. You give me what I ask you, Governor, it's not a penny more and not a penny less.
Why don't you marry that missus of yours? I'd rather draw the line at encouraging that sort of immorality.
Tell her so, Governor, tell her so. I'm willing. It's me that suffers by it. I've no hold on her. I got to be agreeable to her. I got to give her presents. I got to buy her clothes, something sinful. I'm a slave to that woman, Governor, just because I'm not her lawful husband. And she knows it, too. Catch her marrying me. Take my advice, Governor. Marry Eliza while she's young and don't know no better. If you don't, you'll be sorry for it after. And if you do, she'll be sorry for it after. But better you than her, because you're a man and she's only a woman. And don't know how to be happy anyhow.
Pickering, if we listen to this man another minute, we shall have no convictions left. £5, I think you said?
Thank you kindly, Governor.
Are you sure you won't take 10?
Oh, not now. Another time, Governor.
There you are.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning.
He hurries to the door, anxious to get away with his booty. When he opens it, he is confronted with a dainty and exquisitely clean young Japanese lady in a simple blue cotton kimono printed cunningly with small white jasmine blossoms. Mrs. Pierce is with her. He gets out of her way deferentially and apologizes.
Beg pardon, miss.
Come on. Don't you know your own daughter?
What's that?
By Jove!
Don't I look silly?
Silly?
Now, Mr. Higgins, please don't say anything to make the girl conceited about herself.
Oh, quite right, Mrs. Pierce. Yes, damned silly.
Please, sir.
I mean extremely silly.
I should look all right with my hat on.
A new fashion, by George. It ought to look horrible.
Well, I never thought she'd clean up as good looking as that, Governor. She's a credit to me, ain't she?
I tell you, it's easy to clean up here. Hot and cold water on tap. Just as much as you like. There is woolly towels, there is, and a towel horse so hot it burns your fingers. Soft brushes to scrub yourself, and a wooden bowl of soap smelling like primroses. Now I know why ladies is always so clean. Washing's a treat for them. Wish they saw what it was like for me.
I'm glad the bathroom met with your approval.
It didn't. Not all of it. And I don't care who hears me say it. Miss Pierce knows.
What was wrong, Mrs. Pierce?
Oh, nothing, sir. It doesn't matter.
I had a good mind to break it. I didn't know which way to look. But I hung a towel over it. I did.
Over what?
Over the looking glass, sir.
Doolittle, you have brought up your daughter too strictly.
Me? I never brought her up at all, except to give her a lick of a strap now and again. Don't put it on me, Governor. She ain't accustomed to it, you see. That's all. but she'll soon pick up your free and easy ways.
A good girl I am, and I won't pick up no free and easy ways.
Eliza, if you say that again, your father shall take you home.
Not him. You don't know my father. All he come here was for a touch of you for some money to get drunk on.
Well, what else would I want money for? To put in a plate in church, I suppose. Don't you give me none of your lip, and don't let me hear you giving this gentleman any of it neither. You'll hear from me about it, see?
Have you any further advice to give before you go, Doolittle? Your blessing, for instance?
No, Governor. I ain't such a mug as to put up my children to awful know myself. Hard enough to hold them without that. If you want Eliza's mind improved, Governor, you do it yourself with a strap. So long, Governor.
Stop. You'll come regularly to see your daughter. It's your duty, you know. My brother is a clergyman. He could help you in your talks with her.
Certainly I'll come, Governor. Not just this week, because I have a job at a distance, but later on you may depend on me. Afternoon, gentlemen. Afternoon, ma'am.
Don't you believe the old liar. He'd as soon you set a bulldog on him as a clergyman. You won't see him again in a hurry.
I don't want to, Eliza. Do you?
Not me. I don't want never to see him again, I don't. He's a disgrace to me, he is, collecting dust instead of working at his trade.
And what is his trade, Eliza?
Talking money out of other people's pockets and into his own. His proper trade's a navvy, and he works at it sometimes too, for exercise, and earns good money at it. Ain't you going to call me Miss Doolittle anymore?
I beg your pardon, Miss Doolittle. It was a slip of the tongue.
Oh, I don't mind. It only sounded so genteel. I should just like to take a taxi to the corner of Tottenham Court Road and get out there and tell it to wait for me. Just to put the girls in their place a bit. I wouldn't speak to them, you know.
Better wait till we get you something really fashionable, huh?
Besides, you shouldn't cut your old friends now that you've risen in the world. That's what we call snobbery.
You don't call the like of them my friends now, I should hope. They've took it out of me often enough with their ridicule when they had the chance. And now I mean to get a bit of my own back. But if I'm to have fashionable clothes, I'll wait. I should like to have some. Miss Pierce says you're going to give me some to wear in bed at night different from what I wear in the daytime, but it do seem a waste of money when you could get something to show. Besides, I never could fancy changing into cold things on a winter night.
Actually, now, Eliza, the new things have come for you to try on.
Oh,
don't rush about like that, girl.
Pickering, we have taken on a stiff job.
Higgins, we have.
Act 3. It is Mrs. Higgins's at-home day. Nobody has yet arrived. Her drawing room in a flat on Chelsea Embankment has 3 windows looking on the river, and the ceiling is not so lofty as it would be in an older house of the same pretension. Mrs. Higgins was brought up on Morris and Burne-Jones, and her room, which is very unlike her son's room in Wimpole Street, is not crowded with furniture and tables and knickknacks. In the corner diagonally opposite the door, Mrs. Higgins, now over 60 and long past taking the trouble to dress out of the fashion, sits writing an elegantly simple writing table with a bell button within her hand. It is between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. The door is opened violently, and Higgins enters with his hat on.
Henry, what are you doing here today? It is my at-home day. You promised not to come.
Oh, bother.
Go home at once.
I know, Mother. I came on purpose.
But you mustn't. I'm serious, Henry. You offend all my friends. They stop coming whenever they meet you.
Nonsense. I know I have no small talk, but people don't mind.
Oh, really? Small talk indeed. What about your large talk? Really, dear, you mustn't stay.
I must. I have a job for you, a phonetic job.
No use, dear. I'm sorry, but I can't get round your vowels. And though I like to get pretty postcards in your patent shorthand, I always have to read the copies in ordinary writing you so all thoughtfully send me.
Well, this isn't a phonetic job.
You said it was.
Not your part of it. I've picked up a girl.
You don't mean that some girl has picked you up?
Not at all. I don't mean a love affair.
What a pity.
Why?
Well, you'll never fall in love with anyone under 45. When will you discover that there are some rather nice-looking young women about?
Oh, I can't be bothered with young women. My idea of a lovable woman is something as like you as possible. I shan't never get into the way of seriously liking young women. Some habits lie too deep to be changed. Besides, they're all idiots.
Do you know what you would do if you really loved me, Henry?
Oh, bother Mary, I suppose.
No. Stop fidgeting and take your hands out of your pockets. What a good boy. Now, tell me about the girl.
She's coming to see you.
I don't remember asking her.
You didn't. I asked her. If you'd have known her, you wouldn't have asked her.
Indeed, why?
Well, it's like this. She's a common flower girl. I picked her off the curbstone.
And invited her to my at home?
That'll be all right. I've taught her to speak properly, and she has strict orders as to her behavior. She's to keep two subjects, the weather and everybody's health, by day and how do you do, you know, and not to let herself go on and things in general. That will be safe.
Safe? To talk about our health? About our insides? Perhaps about our outsides? How could you be so silly, Henry?
Well, she must talk about something. Be all right, don't you fuss. Pickering is in it with me. I was sort of bet that I can pass her off as a duchess in 6 months. I've started her on some months ago, and she's getting ossifier. I shall win my bet. She's a quick ear, and she's been easier to teach than my middle-class pupils because she's had to learn a completely new language. And she talks English almost as you talk French.
That's satisfactory at all events.
Well, it is, and it isn't.
What does that mean?
You see, I've got her pronunciation all right, but you have to consider that not only how a girl pronounces, but what she pronounces, and that's where...
Mrs. and Miss Eynsford-Hill.
Oh, Lord.
Mrs. and Miss Eynsford-Hill are the mother and daughter who sheltered from the rain in Covent Garden. The mother is well-bred, quiet, and has the habitual anxiety of straitened means. The daughter has acquired a gay air of being very much at home in society, the bravado of genteel poverty.
How do you do?
How do you do?
My son, Henry.
Oh, your celebrated son. I have so longed to meet you, Professor Higgins.
Delighted.
How do you do?
I've seen you somewhere before. I haven't the ghost of a notion where, but I've heard your voice, so it doesn't matter. You'd better sit down.
I'm sorry to say that my celebrated son has no manners. You mustn't mind him.
I don't.
Not at all.
Oh, have I been rude? I didn't mean to be.
Colonel Pickering.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins?
So glad you've come. Do you know Mrs. Eynsford-Hill? Miss Eynsford-Hill?
Has Henry told you what we've come for?
We were interrupted, damn it.
Oh, Henry, really?
Are we in the way?
Oh, no, you couldn't have come more fortunately. We want you to meet a friend of ours.
Yes, by George, we want 2 or 3 people. You'll do as well as anybody else.
Mr. Eynsford-Hill.
God in heaven, another of them!
How to do?
Very good of you to come. Colonel Pickering.
How to do?
Do you think you know my son, Professor Higgins?
How to do?
I'll take my oath. I've met you somewhere before. Where was it?
I don't think so.
Doesn't matter anyhow. Sit down.
He shakes Freddie's hand and almost slings him onto the ottoman with his face to the windows, then comes round to the other side of it.
Well, here we are anyhow. And now what the devil are we to talk about until Eliza arrives?
Henry, you're the life and soul of the Royal Society's soirees, but really you're rather trying when it comes to more commonplace occasions.
Am I? Very sorry. I suppose I am, you know.
I sympathize. I haven't any small talk. If people would only be frank and say what they really think.
Lord forbid.
But why?
What they think they ought to think is bad enough, Lord knows, but what they really think break up the whole show. Do you suppose it would be really agreeable if I were to come out with what I really think?
Is it so very cynical?
Cynical? Who the dickens said it was cynical? I mean, it wouldn't be decent.
Oh, I'm sure you don't mean that, Mr. Higgins.
You see, we're all savages, more or less. We're supposed to be civilized and cultured, to know about poetry and philosophy and art and science and so on, but how many of us even know the meanings of these names? What do you know of poetry, Mrs. Hill? Miss Hill. What do you know of science, Mrs. Hill? Rarely know of art or science or anything else. What the devil do you imagine I know of philosophy?
Or of manners, Henry?
Miss Doolittle.
Here she is, Mother.
Eliza, who is exquisitely dressed, produces an impression of such remarkable distinction and beauty as she enters that they all rise, quite flustered. Guided by Higgins's signals, she comes to Mrs. Higgins with studied grace.
How do you do, Miss Higgins? Mr. Higgins told me I might come.
Oh, quite right. I'm very glad indeed to see you.
How do you do, Miss Doolittle?
Colonel Pickering, is it not?
I feel sure that we have met before, Miss Doolittle. I remember your eyes.
How do you do?
My daughter Clara.
How do you do?
How do you do?
I've certainly had the pleasure.
My son, Freddie.
How do you do?
By George, yes, it all comes back to me. Covent Garden. What a damned thing.
Henry, please. And don't sit on my writing table, you'll break it.
Sorry.
He goes to the divan, stumbling into the fender and over the fire irons on his way, extricating himself with muttered imprecations, and finishing his disastrous journey by throwing himself so impatiently on the divan that he almost breaks it. Mrs. Higgins looks at him, but controls herself and says nothing. A long and painful pause ensues.
Will it rain, do you think?
The shallow depression in the west of these islands is likely to move slowly in an easterly direction. There are no indications of any great change in the barometrical situation.
How awfully funny.
What is wrong with that, young man? I bet I got it right.
Killing.
I'm sure I hope it won't turn cold. There's so much influenza about. It runs right through a whole family regularly every spring.
My aunt died of influenza. So they said.
Oh.
But It is my belief that they done the old woman in.
Done her in?
Yes, Lord love you. Why should she die of influenza? She come through diphtheria right enough the year before. I saw her with my own eyes. Fairly blue with it she was. They all thought she was dead, but my father kept ladling gin down her throat till she came to so sudden that she bit the bowl off the spoon.
Dear me!
What call would a woman with that strength in her have to die of influenza? What become of her new straw hat that should have come to me? Somebody pinched it, and what I say is, them as pinched it done her in.
What does done her in mean?
Oh, that's the new small talk. To do a person in means to kill them.
You surely don't believe that your aunt was killed.
Do I not? Them she lived with would have killed her for hatpin, let alone an hat.
It can't have been right for your father to pour spirits down her throat like that. It might have killed her.
Not her. Gin was mother's milk to her. Besides, he'd pour so much down his own throat that he knew the good of it.
Do you mean that he drank?
Drank? My word, something chronic.
How dreadful for you.
Not a bit. He never did him no harm, what I could see. But then he did not keep it up regular. On the burst, as you might say, from time to time. And always more agreeable when he had a drop in. When he was out of work, my mother used to give him 4 pence and tell him to go out and not come back until he drunk himself cheerful and loving like. There's lots of women has to make their husbands drunk to make them fit to live with. You see, it's like this. If a man has a bit of a conscience, it always takes him when he's sober. And then it makes him low-spirited. A drop of booze just takes off that and makes him happy. Here, what are you sniggering at, Freddie?
The new small talk. You do it awfully well.
If I was doing it proper, what was you laughing at? Have I said anything I oughtn't?
Not at all, Miss Doolittle.
Well, that's a mercy anyhow. What I always say...
Ahem.
Well, I must go. So pleased to have met you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Colonel Pickering.
Goodbye, Miss Doolittle.
Goodbye, all.
Are you walking across the park, Miss Doolittle? If so...
What? Not bloody likely. I am going to take a taxi.
I really can't get used to the new ways.
Oh, it's all right, Mama, quite right. People will think we never go anywhere or see anybody if you are so old-fashioned.
I dare say I am very old-fashioned, but I do hope you won't begin using that expression, Clara. I have got accustomed to hear you talking about men as rotters and calling everything filthy and beastly, though I do think it horrible and unladylike. But this last is really too much. Don't you think so, Colonel Pickering?
Don't ask me. I've been away in India for several years, and manners have changed so much that I sometimes don't know whether I'm at a respectable dinner table or in a ship's forecastle.
It's all a matter of habit. There's no right or wrong in it. Nobody means anything by it, and it's so quaint and gives such a smart emphasis to things that are not in themselves very witty. I find the new small talk delightful and quite innocent.
Well, after that, I think it's time for us to go.
Oh, yes. We have 3 at-homes to go to still. Goodbye, Mrs. Higgins. Goodbye, Colonel Pickering. Goodbye, Professor Higgins.
Goodbye. Be sure you try some of that small talk on at the 3 at-homes. Don't be nervous about it. Pitch it in strong.
I will. Goodbye. Such nonsense, all of this early Victorian prudery.
Such damned nonsense.
Such bloody nonsense.
Clara!
Well, I ask you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Would you like to meet Miss Doolittle again?
Yes, I should. Most awfully.
Well, you know my days.
Yes. Thanks awfully. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Mr. Higgins.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
It's no use. I shall never be able to bring myself to use that word.
Don't. It's not compulsory, you know. You'll get on quite well without it.
Only Clara is so down on me that I am not positively reeking with the latest slang. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You mustn't mind Clara. We're so poor. She gets to so few parties. Poor child. She doesn't quite know. But the boy is nice, don't you think?
Oh, quite nice. I shall always be delighted to see him.
Thank you, dear. Goodbye.
Well, is Eliza presentable?
You silly boy. Of course she's not presentable. Oh, she's a triumph of your art and of her dressmakers. But if you suppose for one moment that she doesn't give herself away in every sentence she utters, you must be perfectly cracked about her.
But don't you think something might be done? I mean, something to eliminate the sanguinary element from her conversation?
Not as long as she's in Henry's hands.
You mean that my language is improper?
No, dearest, it would be quite proper. Say, on a canal barge, but it would not be proper for her at a garden party.
Well, I must...
Come, Higgins. You must learn to know yourself. I haven't heard such language as yours since we used to review the volunteers in Hyde Park 20 years ago.
Oh, well, if you say so. I suppose I don't always talk like a bishop.
Colonel Pickering, will you tell me what is the exact state of things in Wimpole Street?
Well, I have come to live with Henry. We work together in my Indian dialects, and we think it's more convenient.
Oh, quite so. I know all about that. It's an excellent arrangement. But where does this girl live?
With us, of course. Where would she live?
But on what terms? Is she a servant? If not, what is she?
I think I know what you mean, Mrs. Higgins.
Well, dash me if I do. I've had to work at the girl every day for months to get her to her present pitch. Besides, she's useful. She knows where my things are and remembers my appointments and so forth.
How does your housekeeper get on with her?
Mrs. Pierce, oh, she's jolly glad to get so much taken off her hands. For before Eliza came, she had to find things and remind me of my appointments. But she's got some silly bee in her bonnet about Eliza. She keeps saying, "You don't think, sir, doesn't she, Pick?"
Yes, that's the formula. You don't think, sir. That's the end of every conversation about Eliza.
As if I ever stop thinking about the girl and her confounded vowels and consonants. I'm worn out thinking about her and watching her lips and her teeth and her tongue, not to mention her soul, which is the quaintest of the lot.
You certainly are a pretty pair of babies playing with your live doll.
Playing? The hardest job I ever tackled. Make no mistake about that, Mother. But you have no idea how frightfully interesting it is to take a human being and change her into quite a different human being by creating a new speech for her. Deepest gulf that separates class from class and soul from soul.
Yes, it's enormously interesting. I assure you, Mrs. Higgins, we take Eliza very seriously. Every week, every day almost, there is some new change. We keep records of every stage, dozens of gramophone discs and photographs.
Yes, by George, the most absorbing experiment I've ever tackled. She regularly fills our lives, doesn't she, Pick?
We're always talking Eliza.
Teaching Eliza.
Dressing Eliza.
What?
Inventing new Eliza. You know she has the most Extraordinary quickness of ear, just like a parrot.
I assure you, Mrs. Higgins, that girl is a genius.
I tried it with every possible sort of sound a human being can make.
She can play the piano quite beautifully.
Continental dialects, African dialects, Hottentot clicks, things that took me years to get hold of.
We have taken her to the classical concerts and to music halls, and it's all the same to her. She plays everything she hears right off when she comes home, whether it's Beethoven or Brahms or Lear or Lionel Morrington.
She picks them up like a shot right away, as if she had been at it all her life.
And though 6 months ago she'd never as much touched a piano.
Shh!
I beg your pardon.
Sorry. When Pickering starts shouting, nobody can get a word in edgewise.
Be quiet, Henry. Colonel Pickering, don't you realize that when Eliza walked into Wimpole Street, something walked in with her?
Her father did, but Henry soon got rid of him.
It would have been more to the point if her mother had, but as her mother didn't, something else did.
But what?
A problem.
Oh, I see. The problem of how to pass her off as a lady.
I'll solve that problem. I've half solved it already.
No, you two infinitely stupid male creatures! The problem of what is to be done with her afterwards.
I don't see anything in that. She can go her own way with all the advantages I've given her.
The advantages of that poor woman who was here just now, the manners and habits that disqualify a fine lady from earning her own living without giving her a fine lady's income, is that what you mean?
Oh, that will be all right, Mrs. Higgins.
We'll find us right employment.
She's happy enough. Don't you worry about her. Goodbye.
Anyhow, Dad, there's no good bothering now. The thing's done. Goodbye, Mother.
There are plenty of openings. We'll do what's right. Goodbye.
Let's take her to the Shakespeare exhibit at Earl's Court.
Yes, let's. Her remarks will be delicious.
She'll mimic all the people for us when we get home.
Ripping!
Mrs. Higgins rises with an impatient bounce and returns to her work at the writing table. She sweeps a litter of disarranged papers out of her way, snatches a sheet of paper from her stationery case, and tries resolutely to write. At the third line, she gives up, flings down her pen, grips the table angrily, and exclaims,
Men! Men! Men!
Act 4. The Wimpole Street Laboratory. Midnight. Nobody in the room. The clock on the mantelpiece strikes 12. The fire is not alight. It is a summer's night. Presently, Higgins and Pickering are heard on the stairs.
I say, Pick, lock up, will you? I shan't be going out again.
Right. Can Mrs. Pierce go to bed? We don't want anything more, do we?
Lord, no.
Eliza opens the door and is seen on the lighted landing in opera cloak, brilliant evening dress, and pearls, with fan, flowers, and all accessories. She comes to the hearth and switches on the electric lights there. She is tired. Her pallor contrasts strongly with her dark eyes and hair, and her expression is almost tragic. She takes off her cloak, puts her fan and flowers on the piano, and sits down on the bench, brooding and silent. Higgins, in evening dress with overcoat and hat, comes in carrying a smoking jacket which he has picked up downstairs. He takes off the hat and overcoat, throws them carelessly on the newspaper stand, disposes of his coat in the same way, puts on the smoking jacket, and throws himself wearily into the easy chair at the hearth. Pickering, similarly attired, comes in. He also takes off his hat
Oh,
and overcoat,
chuck them
and
over
is
the
about to throw
banisters in
them
the
on
hall. She'll
Higgins's
find them
when he
there in the morning and
hesitates.
put them all right.
I say,
Two
Mrs.
were
Pierce
drunk.
will row if we leave these things lying about in the drawing room.
I didn't look. Ah!
Pickering takes the overcoats and hats and goes downstairs. Higgins begins half
We are
singing and half
slightly.
yawning in air from
Are there any
below.
letters?
Suddenly he stops and exclaims,
Wonder where the devil my slippers are.
Eliza looks at him darkly, then leaves the room. Higgins yawns again and resumes his song. Pickering returns with the contents of the letterbox in his hand.
Only circulars. And this
Moneylender.
coroneted billet-doux for you.
Eliza returns with a pair of large down-at-heel slippers. She places them on the carpet before Higgins and sits as before without a word.
Oh, Lord, what an evening. What a crew, what a silly tomfoolery.
He raises his shoe to unlace it and catches sight of the slippers. He stops unlacing and looks at them as if they had appeared there of their own accord.
Oh, they're here, are they?
Oh, well, I feel a bit tired. It's been a long
Thank
day.
God it's
The garden
over.
party, a dinner party,
Eliza
and the
flinches
opera.
violently.
Rather too much of a good
They
thing.
take no notice of her.
But
and she recovers
you've won your
herself
bet,
and sits
Higgins.
stonily as
Eliza
before.
did the trick and something to spare, eh?
Oh, she wasn't nervous. I knew she'd be all right. No, it's the strain of putting the job through all these months that has told on me. It was
Were
interesting
you
enough
nervous
first when
at
we
the
were
garden
the
party?
phonetics,
I
but after
was.
that, I got
Eliza
deadly
didn't
sick
seem
of
a
it.
bit
I hadn't
nervous.
backed myself to do it. I should have chucked the whole thing 2 months ago. It was a silly notion. The whole thing has been a bore. Yes, for the first 3 minutes, but when I saw we were going to win hands down, I felt like a bear in a cage, hanging around doing
The garden
nothing.
party was
The dinner
frightfully
worse.
exciting. My
Sitting
heart began
gorging
beating
there
like
for
anything.
over an hour with nobody but a damned fool of a fashionable woman to talk to. I tell you, Pickering, never again for me. No more artificial duchesses. The whole thing has been simple purgatory.
You've never been broken in properly to the social routine. I rather enjoy dipping into it occasionally myself. It makes me feel young again. Anyhow, it was a great success, an immense success. I was quite frightened once or twice because Eliza was doing it so well. You see, lots of the real people
Yes, that's
can't
what
do it
drives
at
me
all.
mad. The silly
They're
people
such
don't
fools
know
that they
their
think
own
style
silly
comes by
business.
nature
However,
to people in their
it's over
position.
and done with,
And so they
now
never
I can go to
learn.
bed at last.
There's
without
always
dreading
something
tomorrow.
professional about doing a thing
Eliza's beauty
superlatively
becomes
well.
murderous.
Good night. Put the lights out, Eliza, and tell Mrs. Pierce not to
I
make the
think I
coffee
shall
for me in
turn
the morning. I'll
into.
take tea.
Still, it's been a great occasion, a triumph for you. Good night.
Eliza tries to control herself and feel indifferent as she rises and walks across the hearth to switch off the lights. By the time she gets there, she is on the point of screaming. She sits down in Higgins's chair and holds on hard to the arms. Finally, she gives way and flings herself furiously on the floor, raging.
What the devil have I done with my slippers?
There are your slippers, and there! Take your slippers, and may you never have a day's luck with them.
What on earth? What's the matter? Get up!
Nothing wrong. With you. I've won your bet for you, haven't I? That's enough for you. I don't matter, I suppose.
You won my bet, you presumptuous insect. I won it. What did you throw those slippers at me for?
Because I wanted to smash your face. I'd like to kill you, you selfish brute. Why didn't you leave me where you picked me out of? In the gutter? You thank God it's all over, and now that you can throw me back there again, do you?
The creature is nervous after all.
Ugh!
Ah, what you! Claws in, you cat! How dare you show your temper to me! Sit down and be quiet!
What's to become of me? What's to become of me?
How the devil do I know what's to become of you? What does it matter what becomes of you?
You don't care, I know. You don't care. You wouldn't care if I was dead. I'm nothing to you. Not so much as them slippers.
Those slippers?
Those slippers. I didn't think it made any difference now.
Why have you begun going on like this? May I ask whether you complain of your treatment here?
No.
Has anybody behaved badly to you? Colonel Pickering? Mrs. Pierce? Any of the servants?
No.
I presume you don't pretend that I have treated you badly.
No.
I'm glad to hear it. Perhaps you're tired after the strain of the day. Would you have a glass of champagne?
No. Thank you.
This has been coming on you for some days. I suppose it was natural for you to be anxious about the garden party, but it's all over now. There's nothing more to worry about.
No, nothing more for you to worry about. God, I wish I was dead.
Why, in heaven's name, why? Listen to me, Eliza. All this irritation, it's purely subjective.
I don't understand. I'm too ignorant.
It's only imagination, low spirits, and nothing else. Nobody's hurting you. Nothing is wrong. You go to bed like a good girl and sleep it off. Have a little cry and say your prayers. That will make you comfortable.
I heard your prayers. Thank God it's all over.
Well, don't you thank God it's all over? Now you are free and can do what you like.
What am I fit for? What have you left me fit for? Where am I to go? What am I to do? What's to become of me?
Oh, that's what's worrying you, is it? I shouldn't bother about it if I were you. I should imagine you won't have much difficulty in settling yourself somewhere or other. Though I hadn't quite realized that you were going away. You might marry, you know. You see, Eliza, not all men are confirmed old bachelors like me and the Colonel. Most are the marrying sort. Or devils. And you're not bad looking. Quite a pleasure to look at you sometimes. Not now, of course, because you've been crying and you're looking as devil, but when you are all right and quite yourself, you're what I should call attractive. That is to people in the marrying line, you understand. You go to bed and have a nice, good rest, and then get up and look at yourself in the glass, and you won't feel so cheap.
Eliza looks at him, speechless, and does not stir. The look is quite lost on him. He eats his apple with a dreamy expression of happiness, as it is quite a good one.
I dare say my mother could find some chap or other who would do very well.
We were above that, at the corner of Tottenham Court Road.
What do you mean?
I sold flowers. I didn't sell myself. Now you've made a lady of me, and I'm not fit to sell anything else. I wish you'd left me where you found me.
Gosh, Eliza, don't you insult human relations by dragging all that cant about buying and selling into it. You didn't marry the fellow if you don't like him.
What else am I to do?
Well, lots of things. What about your old idea of a florist shop? Pickering could set you up in one. He's got lots of money. He'll have to pay for all those togs you've been wearing today, and that, with the hire of the jewellery, will make a big hole in £200. Why, 6 months ago, you would have thought it the millennium to have a flower shop of your own. Come, you'll be all right. I must clear off to bed. I'm devilishly sleepy. By the way, I came down for something. I forgot what it was.
Your slippers.
Oh, yes, you shied them at me.
Before you go, sir.
Eh?
Do my clothes belong to me or to Colonel Pickering?
What the devil use would they be to Pickering?
You might want them for the next girl you pick to experiment on.
Is that the way you feel about us?
I don't want to hear anything more about that. All I want to know is whether anything belongs to me. My own clothes were burnt.
But what does it matter? Why need you start bothering about that in the middle of the night?
I want to know what I may take away with me. I don't want to be accused of stealing.
Stealing? You shouldn't have said that, Eliza. That says a want of feeling.
I'm sorry, I'm only a common, ignorant girl. And in my station, I have to be careful. There can't be any feelings between the like of you and the like of me. Please, will you tell me what belongs to me and what doesn't?
You may take the whole damned house full if you like. Except the jewels, they're hired. Will that satisfy you?
Will you take these to your room and keep them safe? I don't want to run the risk of, their being missing.
Hand them over. If these belonged to me instead of the jeweler, I'd ram them down your ungrateful throat.
This ring isn't the jeweler's. It's the one you bought me in Brighton. I don't want it now.
Higgins dashes the ring violently into the fireplace and turns on her so threateningly that she crouches over the piano with her hands over her face and exclaims,
"Don't you hit me!"
Hit you, you infamous creature! How dare you accuse me of such a thing? You have hit me. You've wounded me to the heart.
I'm glad. I've got a little of my own back, anyhow.
You have caused me to lose my temper, a thing that has hardly ever happened to me before. I prefer to say nothing more tonight. I am going to bed.
You better leave a note for Miss Pierce about the coffee. She won't be told by me.
Damn Mrs. Pierce, and damn the coffee, and damn you, and damn my own folly in having lavished my hard-earned knowledge and the treasure of my regard and intimacy on a heartless gutter snipe.
He goes out with oppressive decorum and spoils it by slamming the door savagely. Eliza smiles for the first time, expresses her feelings by a wild pantomime in which an imitation of Higgins's exit is confused with her own triumph, and finally goes down on her knees on the hearthrug to look for the ring. Act 5. Mrs. Higgins's drawing room. She is at her writing table as before. The parlour maid comes in.
Mr. Henry, ma'am, is downstairs with Colonel Pickering.
Well, show them up.
They're using the telephone, ma'am. Telephoning to the police, I think.
What?
Mr. Henry's in a state, ma'am. I thought I'd better tell you.
If you had told me that Mr. Henry was not in a state, it would have been more surprising. Tell them to come up when they're finished with the police. I suppose he's lost something.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, go upstairs and tell Miss Doolittle that Mr. Henry and the Colonel are here. ask her not to come down until I send for her.
Yes, ma'am.
Look, Mother, here's a confounded thing.
Yes, dear. Good morning. What is it?
Eliza's bolted.
You must have frightened her.
Frightened her? Nonsense. She was left last night, as usual, to turn out the lights and all that, and instead of going to bed, she changed her clothes and went right off. The bed wasn't slept in. She came in a cab for her things before 7 this morning, and that fool Mrs. Pierce let her have them without telling me a word about it. What am I to do?
Do without, I'm afraid, Henry. The girl has a perfect right to leave if she chooses.
But I can't find anything. I don't know my appointments I've got.
Good morning, Mrs. Higgins. Has Henry told you?
What does that arse of an inspector say? Have you offered a reward?
You don't mean to say you've set the police after Eliza?
Of course. What are the police for? What else could we do?
The inspector made a lot of difficulties. I really think he suspected us of some improper purpose.
Well, of course he did. What right have you to go to the police and give the girl's name as if she were a thief or a lost umbrella or something? Really?
But we want to find her.
We can't let her go like this, you know, Mrs. Higgins. What were we to do?
You have no more sense, either of you, than 2 children. Why,
Mr. Henry, a gentleman wants to see you. Very particular. He's been sent on from Wimpole Street.
Oh, bother, I can't see anyone now. Who is it?
A Mr. Doolittle, sir.
Doolittle? Do you mean the dustman?
Dustman? Oh, no, sir. A gentleman.
By George, Pick, it's some relative of hers that she's gone to. Somebody we know nothing about. Quick.
Yes, sir.
Genteel relatives. Now we shall hear something.
Do you know any of her people?
Only her father, the fellow we told you about.
Mr. Doolittle.
Doolittle enters. He is brilliantly dressed in a new fashionable frock coat. A flower in his buttonhole, a dazzling silk hat, and patent leather shoes complete the effect. He is too concerned with the business he has come on to notice Mrs. Higgins. He walks straight to Higgins and accosts him with vehement reproach.
See here, do you see this? You done this?
Done what, man?
This, I tell you, look at it. Look at this hat.
Has Eliza been buying you clothes?
Eliza, not she, not half. Why would she buy me clothes?
Good morning, Mr. Doolittle. Won't you sit down?
Asking your pardon, ma'am. Thank you. I am that full of what has happened to me that I can't think of anything else.
What the dickens has happened to you?
I shouldn't mind if it only happened to me. Anything might happen to anybody and nobody to blame but Providence, as you might say. But this is something that you've done to me. Yes, you, Henry Higgins.
Have you found Eliza? That's the point.
Have you lost her?
Yes.
You have all the luck you have. I ain't found her, but she'll find me quick enough now after what you done to me.
But what has my son done to you, Mr. Doolittle?
Done to me? Ruined me? Destroyed my happiness? Tied me up and delivered me into the hands of middle-class morality?
You're raving. You're drunk. You're mad. I gave you £5. After that, I've had 2 conversations with you at £0.50 an hour. I've never seen you since.
Oh, drunk am I? Mad am I? Tell me this. Did you or did you not write a letter to an old blighter in America that was given $5 million to found moral reform societies all over the world, and that you wanted you to invent a universal language for him?
What, Ezra D. Wannafeller? He's dead!
Yes, he's dead, and I'm done for. Now, Did you or did you not write a letter to him to say that the most original moralist at present in England, to the best of your knowledge, was Alfred Doolittle, a common dustman?
After your last visit, I remember making some silly joke of the kind.
Ah! After your, you may well call it a silly joke. It put the lid on me right enough. Just give him the chance he wanted to show that Americans is not like us, that they recognize and respect merit in every class of life, however humble. Them words is in his bloomin' will, in which Henry Higgins, thanks to your silly joke, he leaves me a share in his pre-digested cheese trust worth $3,000 a year on condition that I lecture for his Wannafeller Moral Reform World League as often as they ask me. Up to 6 times a year.
The devil he does. Huh. What a lark.
A safe thing for you, Doolittle. They won't ask you twice.
It ain't the lecturing I mind. I'll lecture them blue in the face, I will, and not turn a hair. It's making a gentleman of me that I object to. Who asked him to make a gentleman of me? I was happy. I was free. I touched pretty nigh everybody for money when I wanted it. Same as I touched you, Henry Higgins. Now I am warranted, tied neck and heels, and everybody touches me for money. It's a fine thing for you, says my solicitor. Is it, says I. You mean it's a good thing for you, I says. When I was a poor man and had a solicitor once, they found a pram in the dust cart. He got me off and got shut of me, and got me shut of him as quick as he could. Same with the doctors. Used to shove me out of the hospital before I could hardly stand on me own legs and nothing to pay. Now they finds out that I'm not a healthy man and can't live unless they looks after me twice a day. Oh, in the house, I'm not let to do a hand's turn for myself. Somebody else must do it and touch me for it. A year ago, I hadn't a relative in the world except for 2 or 3 that wouldn't speak to me. Now I've 50 and not a decent week's wages among the lot of them. I have to live for others and not for myself. That's middle-class morality. You talk of losing Eliza? Don't you be anxious. I bet she's on my doorstep by this. Steve, I could support herself easy by selling flowers if I wasn't respectable. And the next one to touch me will be you, Henry Higgins. I'll have to learn to speak middle-class language from you instead of speaking proper English. That's where you'll come in, and I dare say that's what you've done it for.
But, my dear Mr. Doolittle, you need not suffer all this if you are really in earnest. Nobody can force you to accept this bequest. You can repudiate it. Isn't that so, Colonel Pickering?
I believe so.
That's the tragedy of it, ma'am. It's easy to say chuck it, but I haven't the nerve. Which one of us has? We're all intimidated. Intimidated, man, that's what we are. What is there for me if I chuck it but the workhouse in my old age? I have to dye my hair already to keep my job as a dustman. If I was one of the deserving poor and had put it by a little bit, I could chuck it. But then why should I? Because all the deserving poor might as well be millionaires for all the happiness they ever has. They don't know what happiness is. But I, as one of the undeserving poor, have nothing between me and the pauper's uniform but this here blasted $3,000 a year that shoves me into the middle class. Excuse the expression, ma'am. You'd use it yourself if you had my provocation. They've got you every way you turn. It's a choice between the skilly of the workhouse and the Charybdis of the middle class, and I haven't the nerve for the workhouse. Intimidated. That's what I am. Broke, bought up. Happier men than me will call for my dust and touch me for their tip, and I'll look on helpless and envy them. And that's what your son has brought me to.
Well, I'm very glad you're not going to do anything foolish, Mr. Doolittle. For this solves the problem of Eliza's future. You can provide for her now.
Yes, ma'am, I'm expected to provide for everyone now, out of 3,000 a year.
Nonsense. He can't provide for her. He shan't provide for her. She doesn't belong to him. I paid him £5 for her. Doolittle? Either you're an honest man or a rogue.
A little of both, Henry. Like the rest of us, a little of both.
Well, you took money for the girl, and you have no right to take her as well.
Henry, don't be absurd. If you really want to know where Eliza is, she is upstairs.
Upstairs? Then I shall jolly fetch her downstairs.
Be quiet, Henry. Sit down. Sit down, dear, and listen to me.
Oh, very well, very well. But I think you might have told me this a half an hour ago.
Eliza came to me this morning. She passed the night partly walking about in a rage, partly trying to throw herself into the river and being afraid to, and partly at the Carlton Hotel. She told me of the brutal way you two treated her.
What? My dear Mrs. Higgins, she's been telling you stories. We didn't treat her brutally. We hardly said a word to her. We parted on particularly good terms. Higgins, did you bully her after I went to bed?
Just the other way around. She threw my slippers in my face. She behaved in the most outrageous way. I never gave her the slightest provocation. The slippers came bang into my face the moment I entered the room, before I had uttered a word.
But why? What did we do to her?
I think I know pretty well what you did. The girl is naturally rather affectionate, I think. Isn't that so, Mr. Doolittle?
Very tender-hearted, ma'am. Takes after me.
Just so. She had become attached to you both. She worked very hard for you, Henry. I don't think you quite understand what anything in the nature of brain work means to a girl like that. Well, it seems that when the day of the trial came, she did this wonderful thing for you without making a single mistake. You two sat there and never said a word to her, but talked together of how glad you were it was all over and how you had been bored with the whole thing. And then you were surprised that she threw your slippers at you? I should have thrown the fire irons at you.
We said nothing, except that we were tired and wanted to go to bed. Did we, Pick?
That was all.
Quite sure?
Absolutely. Really, that was all.
You didn't thank her, pet her, admire her, or tell her how splendid she'd been?
But she knew all of that. We didn't make speeches to her, if that's what you mean.
Perhaps we were a little inconsiderate. Is she very angry?
Well, she won't go back to Wimpole Street, especially now that Mr. Doolittle is able to keep up the position you have thrust on her. But she says she is quite willing to meet you on friendly terms and let bygones be bygones.
Is she, by George? Oh!
If you promise to behave yourself, Henry, I'll ask her to come down. If not, go home, for you have taken up quite enough of my time.
Oh, all right. Very well. Pick, you behave yourself. Let us put on our best Sunday manners for this creature that we have picked up out of the mud.
Now, Henry Higgins, have some consideration for my feelings as a middle-class man.
Remember your promise, Henry. Mr. Doolittle, will you be so good as to step out onto the balcony for a moment? I don't want Eliza to have the shock of your news until she's made it up with these gentlemen. Would you mind?
As you wish, lady. Anything to help Henry keep her off my hands.
Ask Miss Doolittle to come down, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Henry, be good.
I am behaving myself perfectly.
He's doing his best, Mrs. Higgins.
A pause. Higgins throws back his head, stretches out his legs, and begins to whistle.
Henry, dearest, you don't look at all nice in that attitude.
I was not trying to look nice, Mother.
It doesn't matter, dear. I only wanted to make you speak.
Why?
Because you can't speak and whistle at the same time.
Where the devil is that girl? Are we to wait here all day?
Eliza enters, sunny, self-possessed, and giving a staggeringly convincing exhibition of ease of manner. She carries a little work basket and is very much at home. Pickering is too much taken aback to rise.
How do you do, Professor Higgins? Are you quite well?
Am I?
Oh, but of course you are. You are never ill. So glad to see you again, Colonel Pickering. Quite chilly this morning, isn't it?
Don't you dare try this game on me. I taught it to you, and it doesn't take me in. Get up and come home, and don't be a fool.
Eliza takes a piece of needlework from her basket and begins to stitch at it, without taking the least notice of this outburst.
Very nicely put indeed, Henry. No woman could resist such an invitation.
You let her alone, Mother. Let her speak for herself. You will jolly well see whether there's an idea in her head that I haven't put in there, or a word in her mouth that I haven't put in there. I tell you, I have created this thing out of the squashed cabbage leaves of Covent Garden, and now she pretends to play the fine lady with me.
Yes, dear. But you'll sit down, won't you?
Will you drop me altogether now that the experiment is over, Colonel Pickering?
Oh, don't. You mustn't think of it as an experiment. It shocks me somehow.
Oh, I'm only a squashed cabbage leaf.
No!
But I owe so much to you that I should be very unhappy if you forgot me.
It's very kind of you to say, Miss Doolittle.
It's not because you paid for my dresses. I know you are very generous to everybody with money, but it was from you that I learnt really nice manners, and that is what makes one a lady, isn't it? You see, it was so very difficult for me with the example of Professor Higgins always before me. I was brought up to be just like him, unable to control myself and using bad language on the slightest provocation. And I should never have known that ladies and gentlemen didn't behave like that if you hadn't been there.
Well, oh, that's only his way, you know. He doesn't mean it.
Oh, I didn't mean it either when I was a flower girl. It was only my way, but you see, I did it. And that's what makes the difference after all.
No doubt. Still, he taught you to speak, and I couldn't have done that, you know.
Of course, that is his profession.
Damnation!
It was just like learning to dance in the fashionable way. There was nothing more than that in it. But do you know what began my real education?
What?
Your calling me Miss Doolittle that day when I first came to Wimpole Street. That was the beginning of self-respect for me. And there were 100 little things you never noticed because they came naturally to you. Things about standing up and taking off your hat and opening doors.
Oh, that was nothing.
Yes, things that showed you thought and felt about me as if I was something better than a scullery maid. Though, of course, I know you would have been just the same to a scullery maid if she had been let in the drawing room. You never took off your boots in the dining room when I was there.
You mustn't mind that. Higgins takes off his boots all over the place.
I know. I am not blaming him. It is his way, isn't it? But it made such a difference to me that you didn't do it. You see, really and truly, apart from the things anyone can pick up, the dressing and the proper way of speaking and so on, the difference between a lady and a flower girl is not how she behaves, but how she's treated. I shall always be a flower girl to Professor Higgins, because he always treats me as a flower girl, and always will, but I know I can be a lady to you because you always treat me as a lady, and always will.
Please don't grind your teeth, Henry.
Well, this is really very nice of you, Miss Doolittle.
I should like you to call me Eliza now, if you would.
Thank you, Eliza. Of course.
And I should like Professor Higgins to call me Miss Doolittle.
I'll see you damned first.
Henry! Henry!
Why don't you slang back at him? Don't stand it. It would do him a lot of good.
I can't. I could have done it once, but now I can't go back to it. Last night, when I was wandering about, a girl spoke to me, and I tried to get back into the old way with her, but it was no use. You told me, you know, that when a child is brought to a foreign country, it picks up the language in a few weeks and forgets its own. Well, I am a child in your country. I have forgotten my own language and can speak nothing but yours. That's the real break-off with the corner of Tottenham Court Road. Leaving Wimpole Street finishes it.
Oh, but you're coming back to Wimpole Street, aren't you? You'll forgive Higgins.
Forgive? Will she, by George? Let her go. Let her find out how she can get on without us. She will relapse into the gutter in 3 weeks without me at her elbow.
Doolittle appears at the centre window. With a look of dignified reproach at Higgins, he comes slowly and silently to his daughter, who, with her back to the window, is unconscious of his approach.
He's incorrigible, Eliza. You won't relapse, will you?
No, not now, never again. I have learnt my lesson. I don't believe I could utter one more of the old sounds if I tried.
Doolittle touches her on her left shoulder. She drops her work, losing her self-possession utterly at the spectacle of her father's splendor.
Ow!
Aha! Just so! Ow! 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 Victory! Victory!
Can you blame the girl? Don't look at me like that, Eliza. It ain't my fault. I've come into money.
Oh, you must have touched a millionaire this time, Dad.
I have, but I'm dressed something special today. I'm going to St. George's, Hanover Square. Your stepmother is going to marry me.
You're going to let yourself down to marry that low common woman?
He ought to, Eliza. Doolittle, why has she changed her mind?
Intimidated, Governor, intimidated. Middle-class morality claims its victim. Won't you put on your hat, Liza, and come see me turned off?
If the Colonel says I must, I'll demean myself and get insulted for my pains, like enough.
Don't be afraid. She never comes to words with anyone now, poor woman. Respectability has broke all the spirit out of her.
Be kind to them, Eliza. Make the best of it.
Well, just to show there's no ill feeling,
I'll be back in a moment.
I feel uncommon nervous about the ceremony, Colonel. I wish you'd come and see me through it.
But you've been through it before, man. You were married to Eliza's mother.
Who told you that, Colonel?
Well, nobody told me. I concluded naturally.
No, that ain't the natural way, Colonel. It's only the middle-class way. My way was always the undeserving way. But don't say nothing to Eliza. She don't know. I always had a delicacy about telling her.
Quite right. We'll leave it so, if you don't mind.
And you'll come to the church, Colonel, and put me through straight?
With pleasure. And as far as the bachelor can.
May I come, Mr. Doolittle? I should be very sorry to miss your wedding.
We should indeed be honored by your condescension, ma'am. And me poor old woman would take it as a tremendous compliment. She's been very low thinking of the happy days that are no more.
I'll order the carriage and get ready. I shan't be more than 15 minutes. Eliza, I'm going to the church to see your father married. You had better come in the brougham with me. Colonel Pickering can go with the bridegroom.
Bridegroom! What a word! It makes a man realize his position somehow.
And before I go, Eliza, do forgive him and come back to us.
I don't think Papa would allow me. Would you, Dad?
They played you off very cunning, Eliza, them two sportsmen. If it had been only one of them, you could have nailed him. But you see, there was two, and one of them chaperoned the other, as you might say. It were awful of you, Colonel, but I bear no malice. I should have done the same myself. I've been the victim of one woman after another all my life, and I don't grudge you two getting the better of Eliza. I shan't interfere. It's time for us to go, Colonel. So long, Henry. See you in St. George's, Eliza.
Do stay with us, Eliza.
Eliza goes out on the balcony to avoid being alone with Higgins. He rises and joins her there. She immediately comes back into the room and makes for the door. But he goes along the balcony quickly and gets his back to the door before she reaches it.
Well, Eliza, you've had a bit of your own back, as you call it. Have you had enough? And are you going to be reasonable, or do you want any more?
You want me back only to pick up your slippers and put up with your tempers and fetch and carry for you.
I haven't said I wanted you back at all.
Oh, indeed. Then what are we talking about?
About you, not about me. If you come back, I shall treat you just as I have always treated you. I can't change my nature, and I don't intend to change my manners. My manners are exactly the same as Colonel Pickering's.
That's not true. He treats a flower girl as if she was a duchess.
And I treat a duchess as if she were a flower girl.
I see. The same to everybody.
Just so.
Like father.
Without accepting the comparison at all points, Eliza, it is quite true that your father is not a snob, and that he will be quite at home at any station of life to which his eccentric destiny may call him. The great secret, Eliza, is not having bad manners or good manners or any other particular sort of manners, but having the same manner for all human souls. In short, behaving as if you were in heaven, where there are no third-class carriages, and one soul is as good as another.
Amen. You are a born preacher.
The question is not whether I treat you rudely, but whether you have ever heard me treat anyone else better.
I don't care how you treat me. I don't mind your swearing at me. I don't mind a black eye. I've had one before this, but I won't be passed over.
Then get out of my way, for I won't stop you. You talk about me as if I were a motor bus.
So you are a motor bus. all bounce and go, and no consideration for anyone. But I can do without you. Don't think I can't.
I know you can. I told you you could.
I know you did, you brute. You wanted to get rid of me.
Liar.
Thank you.
You never ask yourself, I suppose, whether I could do without you.
Don't you try to get round me. You'll have to do without me.
I can do without anybody. I have my own soul, my own spark of divine fire. But I shall miss you, Eliza. I have learned something from your idiotic notions. I confess that humbly and gratefully. And I have grown accustomed to your voice and appearance. I like them, rather.
Well, you have both of them on your gramophone and in your book of photographs. When you feel lonely without me, you can turn on the machine. It's got no feelings to hurt.
I can't turn your soul on. Leave me those feelings, and you can take away the voice and the face. They are not you.
Oh, you are a devil. You can twist the heart in a girl as easy as some could twist her arms to hurt her. Mrs. Pierce warned me. Time and time again she has wanted to leave you, and you always got round to her at the last minute. And you don't care a bit for her, and you don't care a bit for me.
I care for life, for humanity, and you are a part of it that has come my way and been built into my house. What else can you or anyone ask?
I won't care for anybody that doesn't care for me.
Commercial principles, Eliza, like selling violets, is it?
Don't sneer at me. It's mean to sneer at me.
I have never sneered in all my life. Sneering doesn't become either the human face or the human soul. I am expressing my righteous contempt for commercialism. I don't and won't trade in affection. You call me a brute because you couldn't buy a claim on me by fetching my slippers and finding my spectacles. You were a fool. I think a woman fetching a man's slippers is disgusting. Did I ever fetch your slippers? I think a great deal more of you for throwing them in my face. No use slaving for me and then saying you want to be cared for. Who cares for a slave? If you come back, come for the sake of good fellowship, for you'll get nothing else. You have 1,000 times as much out of me as I have out of you. And if you dare to set up your little dog's tricks of fetching and carrying slippers or against my creation of a Duchess Eliza, I'll slam the door in your silly face.
What did you do it for if you didn't care for me?
Why, because it was my job.
You never thought of the trouble it would make for me.
Would the world ever have been made if its maker had been afraid of making trouble? Making life means making trouble. There's only one way of escaping trouble, and that's killing things. Cowards, you notice, are always shrieking to have troublesome people killed.
I'm no preacher. I don't notice things like that. I notice that you don't notice me.
Oh, Eliza, you're an idiot. I waste the treasures of my Miltonic mind by spreading them before you. Once for all, understand that I go my way and do my work without caring tuppence what happens to either of us. I am not intimidated like your father and your stepmother, so you can come back to me or go to the devil, which you please.
What am I to come back for?
For the fun of it. That's why I took you on.
And you may throw me out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to?
Yes, and you may walk out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to do.
And live with my stepmother?
Yes, or sell flowers.
Oh, if only I could go back to my flower basket. I should be independent of you both, and father, and all of the world. Why? Why did you take my independence from me? Why did I give it up? I'm a slave now, for all my fine clothes.
Not a bit. I'll adopt you as my daughter and settle money on you if you like. Or would you rather marry Pickering?
I wouldn't marry you if you had asked me. And you're nearer my age than what he is.
Then he is, not then what he is.
I'll talk as I like. You're not my teacher now.
I don't suppose Pickering would, though. He's as confirmed an old bachelor as I am.
That's not what I want. And don't you think it. I've always had chaps enough wanting me that way. Freddie Hill writes to me 2 and 3 times a day. Sheets and sheets.
Damn his impudence.
He has a right to like me. Poor lad, and he does love me.
You have no right to encourage him.
Every girl has a right to be loved.
What, by fools like that?
Freddie is not a fool. And if he's weak and poor and wants me, maybe he'd make me happier than my betters that bully me and don't want me.
Can he make anything out of you? That's the point.
Perhaps I could make something of him, but I never thought of us making anything of one another. And you never think of anything else. I only want to be natural.
In short, you want me to be as infatuated about you as Freddie? Is that it?
No, I don't. That's not the sort of feeling I want from you. And don't you be too sure of yourself, of me. I could have been a bad girl if I'd liked. I've seen more of some of the things than you, and for all your learning. Girls like me can drag gentlemen down to make love to them easy enough, and they wish each other dead the next minute.
Of course they do. Then what in thunder are we quarreling about?
I want a little kindness. I know I'm a common, ignorant girl, and you, a book-learned gentleman. But I'm not dirt under your feet. What I did was not for the dresses and the taxis. I did it because we were pleasant together, and I came to care for you, not to want you to make love to me, and not forgetting the difference between us, but more friendly-like.
Well, of course, that's just what I feel. And how Pickering feels. Eliza, you're a fool.
That's not a proper answer to give me.
It's all you'll get until you stop being a common idiot. If you're going to be a lady, you'll have to give up feeling neglected if the men you know don't spend half their time sniveling over you and the other half giving you black eyes. If you can't stand the coldness of my sort of life and strain of it, go back to the gutter. Work till you are more of a brute than a human being, and then cuddle and squabble and drink until you fall asleep. Oh, it's a fine life, the life of the gutter. It's warm, it's real, it's violent. You can feel it through your thickest skin. You can taste it and smell it without any training or any work. Not like science and literature and classical music and philosophy and art. You find me cold, unfeeling, selfish, don't you? There won't be off with you to the sort of people you do like. Marry some sentimental hog or another with lots of money and a thick pair of lips to kiss you with and a thick pair of boots to kick you with. If you can't appreciate what you've got, you'd better get what you can appreciate.
Oh, you are a cruel tyrant. I can't talk to you. You turn everything against me. I'm always in the wrong, but you know very well all the time that you're nothing but a bully. You know I can't go back to the gutter, as you call it, and that I have no real friends in the world but you and the Colonel. You know well I couldn't bear to live with a low common man after you two. And it's wicked and cruel of you to insult me by pretending I could. You think I must go back to Wimpole Street because I have nowhere else to go but father's. But don't you be too sure that you have me under your feet to be trampled on and talked down. I'll marry Freddie. I will, as soon as he's able to support me.
You shall marry an ambassador. You shall marry the Governor of India, or the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, or somebody who wants a deputy queen. I'm not going to have my masterpiece thrown away on Freddie!
You think I like you to say that, but I haven't forgotten what you said a minute ago. And I won't be coaxed round as if I was a baby or a puppy. If I can't have kindness, I'll have independence.
Independence? That's middle-class blasphemy. We are all dependent on one another, every soul of us on earth.
I'll let you see whether I'm dependent on you. If you can preach, I can teach. I'll go be a teacher.
What'll you teach in heaven's name?
What you taught me, phonetics. I'll offer myself as an assistant to Professor Nailpin.
What? That impostor? That humbug? That toadying ignoramus? Teach him my methods, my discoveries? You take one step in his direction and I'll wring your neck! Do you hear?
Ring away! What do I care? I knew you'd try to strike me someday. Now I know how to deal with you. What a fool I was not to think of it before. You can't take away the knowledge you gave me. You said I had a finer ear than you, and I can be civil and kind to people, which is more than you can. That's done you, Henry Higgins. It has. Now, I don't care that for your bullying and your big talk. I'll advertise it in the papers that your Duchess is only a flower girl that you taught, and that she'll teach anybody to become a Duchess just the same in 6 months for 1,000 guineas. Oh, when I think to myself of crawling under your feet and being trampled on and called names, when all the time I had only to lift up my finger to be as good as you, I could just kick myself.
You damned impudent slut, you. But it's better than sniveling. Better than fetching slippers and finding spectacles, isn't it? By George, Eliza, I said I'd make a woman of you, and I have. Ha! I like you like this.
Yes. You turn round and make up to me now that I'm not afraid of you and can do without you.
Of course I do, you little fool. 5 minutes ago, you were like a millstone round my neck. Now you're a tower of strength, a consort, battleship. You and I and Pickering will be 3 old bachelors together instead of only 2 men and a silly girl.
Mrs. Higgins returns, dressed for the wedding. Eliza instantly becomes cool and elegant.
The carriage is waiting, Eliza. Are you ready?
Quite. Is the professor coming?
Certainly not. He can't behave himself in church. He makes remarks out loud all the time on the clergyman's pronunciation.
Then I shall not see you again, Professor. Goodbye.
Goodbye, dear.
Goodbye, Mother. Oh, by the way, Eliza, order a ham and Stilton cheese, will you? And buy me a pair of reindeer gloves, number 8s, and a tie to match the new suit of mine at Eel and Binman's. You can choose the color.
Buy them yourself.
I'm afraid you've spoiled that girl, Henry. But never mind, dear. I'll buy you the tie and gloves.
Oh, don't bother. She'll buy 'em all right enough. Goodbye.
They kiss. Mrs. Higgins runs out. Higgins, left alone, rattles his cash in his pocket, chuckles, and disports himself in a highly self-satisfied manner. The end.